Do you want to root out your anti-seductive qualities? This is the video to watch. Let's get it.
Yeah. I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumit Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today we're talking once again about the art of seduction, okay? By Robert Greene, and in this particular video, I'm going to be breaking down the anti-seducer archetype. Now, there are many archetypes underneath this overarching archetype of the anti-seducer. You got to understand what are the anti-seductive qualities, okay? So let's just start reading from the start of the chapter, okay? Seducers draw you in by focused, individualized attention that they pay to you. Anti-seducers are the opposite. Insecure, self-absorbed, and unable to grasp the psychology of another person. They literally repel. Anti-seducers have no self-awareness and never realize when they're pestering, imposing, talking too much. They lack the subtlety to create the promise of pleasure that seduction requires. Root out anti-seductive qualities in yourself and recognize them in others. There is no pleasure or profit in dealing with an anti-seducer. Okay. By the way, shout out to Sapphire for asking me to make this video. I agree with you. It is one of the most important ones to look for, okay? We know what we want. We also got to know what we don't want or don't want to be. Okay, so we can avoid those things. Thank you for the comment, okay? I want you to imagine this anti-seducer to have these traits that are a repellent for seduction or Venusian energy, okay? Venus energy. Man, a lot of this is just, making yourself lower, like having a very low self-esteem or being very insecure, right? These kinds of things are repellents. Okay, usually. So insecurity is a big one. Being self-absorbed, as they mentioned. Unable to understand the psychology of another person. Like, what is this person feeling? What are their hopes and dreams and values? Really getting to understand another person on that deep level, not just a superficial level, right? A lack of self-awareness. I think this is one of the most important key ones, okay, is a lack of self-awareness. You're not even understanding how people are reacting to you. You can't read any signals coming from people, whether they are attracted to you or not. You have no self-awareness, right? You don't know if you're being annoying to others. You don't know if other people respect you or not. You live in this uncertainty, this ambiguity, right? So a lack of self-awareness actually creates a lack of self-confidence. They're correlated to each other, okay? If you're talking too much, imposing and interrupting people all the time, you're not really being seductive. A seductive person knows when to listen and has a love for timing and pacing. An example I always give of awareness or even self-awareness but also mindfulness of the environment is like, let's say that there's a girl sitting down and there's 2 cups on the table. If you don't look at those 2 cups and you just completely ignore it and push it aside because you're so self-absorbed, you're just worrying about how your hair looks or whatever, and you're talking to her, you're not going to even observe that maybe her boyfriend or brother or friend is going to come from the restroom and join her, right? That might be a very subtle thing, but this is what you need. You need an attention to detail when you're being seductive. A seductive storyline creates a promise of pleasure. If you're not creating that storyline, and if you're just kind of, wandering about, drifting about, I'm trying to get lucky, I'm trying to, and you're giving off this needy scent, right? That you're unfulfilled, you're in scarcity, maybe you're simping, you feel needy, maybe you're being beta, right, quote unquote. And you're not giving off the aura of pleasure, and you're not giving off the aura of profit. I mean by profit, value. Okay, there's a value exchange in social harmony. If you're a seducer or you're being seduced, you're going to feel charged and confident, okay? The opposite of that would be you feel insecure and you feel a low energy or like a tiredness almost, a sense of like there's a lack of vitality or vivacity in you. There's also people who overreact, okay? To them, your withdrawal means a betrayal, or they're complaining bitterly all the time. These are all examples from the book, by the way. What is the number one impediment to power? Being ungenerous. Robert Greene calls this a top seduction sin. Because generosity creates possibility, right? Generosity creates these connections. Generosity shows that I'm open. You see, seduction is all about openness, not about closing yourself up and being more rigid. Or any kind of ambiguity makes them feel like their ego is hurt, then they're probably an anti-seducer. These kinds of characters could be very argumentative, judgmental, negative all the time, or they're very needy, or they're declaring their love, their clingy love towards you before they know anything about you. Okay, so you might have gotten this before. I don't even know you. Okay, try flipping the frame for a second. As a man or a woman, if you're the one who's getting friend zoned all the time and you're getting this I don't even know you, try and flip that frame on men and women. Okay, when they're talking to you, you are the one who says, let's just be friends. I don't know you that well yet. Let's get to know each other. And you play out the seduction like that. You regain control of the steering wheel, whereas you've been in the passenger seat maybe earlier. We most likely will disengage, and this is Robert Greene's terminology, right? You don't want someone to sink their needy tentacles into you. This is kind of the mentality of the brute archetype. Think of the brute archetype like Bluto, from Popeye. He just has no patience, right? Dude just goes in and kidnaps Olive. Bro, they are only concerned with their own pleasure. This kind of person usually offends you with their egotism. But there's always an insecurity or an inferiority underneath their egoic displays. The way you test to see whether a person is a brute or not is you make them wait. Their response will tell you whether they're a brute or not. If they start overreacting, start getting very clingy or nervous, or shouting at you, getting more angry, they're this archetype, right? They're this anti-seductive archetype. Well, they have to do something about this, right? Otherwise, you're going to lose attraction for them, and you're going to lose interest in them, right? Attraction is all about curiosity, building genuine intrigue or interest. If you lose that, right, you lose the essence, the spark that starts this whole process towards seduction. Now, some of you watching might be in these archetypes. Not to worry. You now know what it is. You can change these traits, okay? You can start aligning with the archetype in this book of your choice. If you have a difficulty finding out what your archetype is, shoot me a message on Instagram, and I'll get you a free 15 to 20 minute just call to where you want to take this thing, or what your AOS archetype is. So the suffocator has this inner void that can't be fulfilled, right? They have this intense trauma or darkness that they can't really get rid of, and so they feel so quick to adore. They feel clingy. They smother you with their guilt. In a lower rung of the sexual marketplace ladder, you would get the doormat. Ormant is more likened towards the simp, or the kind of guy or gal who is basically a slavish imitator of the other person. They just are so agreeable to everything they say. An inability to be disagreeable or confrontational in certain situations can lead you to being this suffocator archetype. You want to think of the opposite of these traits, right? What's the opposite of a brute? What's the opposite of a suffocator? The next one is the moralizer. We know this person, okay? Is it good? Is it bad? They're stuck to their moral code so much that they can't even live. They're just so dogmatically tied and attached to their beliefs and ideas and concerns. You can't break out of it. But guess what? All is fair in love and war. All is fair in love and seduction. If you have fixed ideals or standards, you're going to be coming off as too rigid. This game is light. This game is fun. If you're being stubborn or judgmental or criticizing others, that might be one of the ways that you harvest pleasure in life. Like, you get pleasure from criticizing others. Well, guess what? It's still an anti-seductive quality, because you're getting your pleasure met through a very negative means, right? And you're addicted to that behavior. The sad part about a moralizer is their morality is not from strong, stoic ethics or principles that make them guided towards life. It comes from their own dissatisfaction and unhappiness. It comes from this existential angst, right? That leads them into the rabbit hole of all this philosophy and philosophizing and moralizing, rather than actually taking action. So it's the inability to adapt to certain ideas, right? Like, a real philosopher has a love for wisdom, philosophia, right? Love of wisdom. But a moralizer is stuck to a certain philosophy and they won't give it up. They're so rigid in their thinking that they're not even going to let another person connect with them or enter their world. Does that make sense? Give me a like if this makes sense. So a tightwad is someone who's regarded as cheap, right? Oh, what a cheapo. Okay? Basically what I mentioned of the greatest sin in seduction, ungenerous, okay? This person is ungenerous. They're constantly hoarding things and storing things and keeping things inside, internally and externally. They might be very stingy and, just holding on to hoards of cash and not wanting to pay and things like this. Also note that the opposite could be true. So if you are just giving all the time, overgiving, that can be seen as desperation. You know what Robert Greene says that it comes off as? It comes off as you're trying to buy somebody, okay? It objectifies them and makes them feel like, oh, they're a commodity that can be used and then gone, okay? But for seduction to work, you need that long-term connection in the mental world, right? There's a storyline forming. The next is the Bumbler, okay? The Bumbler, not a person who uses Bumble. In fact, it's a great app. Don't get me wrong. But the Bumbler, according to Robert Greene, is known for their intense self-consciousness, okay? Self-rumination, self-consciousness. Oh, does my hair look okay? Oh, is this all right? Worrying too much, okay? And their worrying is contagious to you. You start worrying because they're worrying. I mean, the sad part is, hey, if they're nervous around you, that's kind of endearing and cute, right? Oh, they're nervous around me. They're not nervous about you and your beauty. They're nervous about themselves and how they appear. So that's what's unattractive, right? Don't just think, oh, just because it's nervousness that's unattractive. No. The Bumbler is no way going to make a bold statement or a bold move, right? And boldness is a quality that you need sometimes in seduction, to stop time, to generate a flow state echo chamber, right? You need boldness. You go, whoa, it shocks you for a second, like a moment in the theater play that shocks the audience and makes them go, whoa. It's that moment where time stands still. And in that time when it stands still, this pocket of space, a person now has time to think and make a choice and take an action step. You don't really have a person who's challenging the world or challenging a person's thoughts. Usually we're nice people, we get along with others and all this kind of stuff, but boldness is something that we're missing at times. Also, the Bumbler has no sense of timing, right? You kind of look at the clumsy way, you're like, oh, right? Like in the cartoons when we used to watch as kids, right? It's that. You're bumbling around, you're drifting around, you're hovering around, and you're not doing anything. The best piece of advice, and Robert Greene mentions this indirectly as well. This is my perspective, though. I want you to find ways to get out of your body. Okay, out-of-body experiences, ego-death experiences. You got to experience some of these, whether that's meditation, through yoga, through breath work, through something. You need that to shut down this critical mind of the self-consciousness, right? The inner critic is amped up in the Bumbler. You need to shut down that inner critic, brother or sister, or, queen or king watching. Next is the windbag. The windbag is just like, you think of the big-headed person or somebody who's just talks about themselves. Basically, it's like a deep-rooted selfishness where this starts from, right? They have no control of their tongue, right? A lack of self-control of what they say. They have no filter. They'll never even think to say, oh, am I boring you with what I'm saying? They'll just keep talking, okay? Because they like hearing their own voice. That makes them feel validated. Remember, this is a very important point, guys, okay? If you are labeling somebody as a negative statement, you got to watch out. This is why it's always good to talk about others in a positive way, right? Because usually people will associate the qualities that you're labeling that other person as with you. Okay, very important to note this. So if you're gossiping and critiquing people and judging others, right, in social situations, you're being, oh, this person, you can't even trust them. All people are hearing in their subconscious mind is, you can't even trust me, right? That's what people are picking up from a frequency angle, right? But if you're going, man, this is my best friend, he's so positive, everywhere we go, we just have a great time. Now we're tuned into the energy. Now we're listening. Now we're seduced, right? Because That's a good backstory. That's a good wingman, wingwoman, if you want to call it that, right? Next, we have something called the reactors. The reactors are too sensitive, okay? They'll overreact. There's a sense of vanity or brooding, and these moments where they throw temper tantrums or lash out because they haven't dealt with their own emotional regulation and response. Constantly whining and constantly complaining, okay? They're being a crybaby most of the time. They don't have that mental toughness. That's according to Robert Greene. You can see their resentment in their faces. One of the ways that you notice that this person is a reactor is try joking about them to them, right? Like a little sarcastic comment or just a joke about them, roast them a little bit. If they overreact at you roasting them, you know, okay, this person might be a reactor, okay? Yeah, they were attractive in my mind, but not anymore, right? It kind of lowers your bar a little bit because you go, this person is so easily manipulated and I can just move them around from here to there. Like, where's their strength, right? Where's their potency of character? Next, we have the vulgarian. The vulgarian pays no attention to details. Paying attention to details is very important as a seducer, okay? You don't want to be tasteless and blab about nothing in public situations and gatherings. These people are way too disagreeable. They're like, nah, whatever, man, okay? They're disagreeing with everything. Okay, there's a balance between, okay, you're agreeable, this is not really that great, and disagreeable, okay? This person is extra disagreeable. This person is, according to Robert Greene, rarely in harmony with another person's tastes. They have this radical selfishness as well, this indiscretion. There's no tact, there's no sense of style, okay? They're wearing mismatched clothing, they have no sense of fashion, and they have no attention to detail, like I said, okay? They're clumping everything into one category. They're overgeneralizers. If you are inattentive in your relationship, you will never catch your partner cheating on you. You see what I'm saying? It's actually a dangerous move for you to be inattentive or completely oblivious to things. Let's call them ASC, okay? I'm tired of saying anti-seductive characters. Most ASC don't show depth of interest over time, you see? For seduction to work, you got to show a deep interest or depth of interest over time. You know, holding yourself back or self-restraint can actually be incredibly seductive. Think about someone who's rushing into everything. That's not seductive either, okay? That's force. This is an energy of flow. You see, the anti-seducer cannot see individual qualities in the person. They clump everybody into one category, just be like, yeah, all women are like this, you know, or something like this. The pride of an anti-seductive character is often not an authentic feeling of courage or confidence or a pride that is glowing and, you know, going out into the world. This kind of pride usually has a hidden element of an inferiority complex, okay? So they overcompensate or try to overcompensate with all these things just to be accepted, just to be liked. Seduction is the tree that bends with the wind. It's not the tree that stands still. It's the bamboo that bends in the wind. So you need an openness, not a unwillingness to bend or break or be stubborn or so rigid in your ways. You're not going to be a seductive character. The anti-seductive character is very well explained through the crab, okay? The crab has a hard shell. They burrow their head into the sand. They have very little mobility. They're not creating their momentum, being defensive, not offensive to the world. Remember, seduction is about creating imagery in a person's mind over a long period of time and getting them to think about you, right? It's not about you being completely distant and indifferent and cold and, you know, only doing that. It's not about that. You got to keep the storyline moving forward. And as long as there is some form of a contact, a social contact, a conversation line that's opened up, you can work on your relationships. I hope you have an incredible day. May the flow be with you. I hope this helped you out, Sapphire. Thank you for asking. Have an incredible day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. Let's get it today. Upward Spiral Gang. May we never be the same again. Let's evolve. Let's go.